Carolina. I really do. I want to move us forward. I think leadership is more important perhaps in tough times than it is when times are good.
Up close with Walter Dalton. The state's second in command is looking to take charge in Raleigh after years in public service for the state. I'm Loretta Beniti. Welcome to this Decision 2012 special, where we take a closer look at the Democratic candidate for governor. You see him on the campaign trail, heard his stump speeches, watched his voting record. Now a more personal look at Walter Dalton himself, what drives him to public service, and the events and people who shaped his life.
To you, Walter H. Dalton.
Walter Dalton came onto the statewide political scene in 2008. Elected as North Carolina's 33rd lieutenant governor.
Transportation is going to be a key issue.
As the state's second in command, he got to spend his first years in office presiding over fellow Democrats who held majorities in the House, Senate, and controlled the governor's mansion. But in 2010, his chamber went red, and his beliefs were not necessarily the ones state government were heading in, and he was left holding the gavel as veto after veto of Governor Bev Perdue's was overridden.
When you hear that the House does not have the votes to do the override, you have to ask yourself, was this merely for political purposes?
Then in January, a surprise. Governor Bev Perdue says she's not running for re-election, and Dalton and other Democrats scrambled to decide who could run to fill her shoes. Dalton! For Dalton, the decision came quickly.
This is a great night.
He was in.
It is a beginning.
Ready to take the helm in Raleigh. His run for the state's top office is a long way from Dalton's small-town beginnings. Born in 1949 in Rutherfordton, he grew up just one town over in Spindale. He quarterbacked his high school football team, earned a business degree at UNC Chapel Hill, then returned home to marry his high school sweetheart, Lucille. After working in banking for a year, he went back to Carolina, earning his law degree. In 1986, he started a 10-year stint as the Rutherford County Attorney. Then, in the mid-90s, he ran to fill a seat in the state Senate, the same seat his father held decades earlier. And with that,
I do, so help me God.
Congratulations.
his service in state politics had begun.
My dad had served in the North Carolina Senate, and I said I put an end to his career after I was born. He was 44 when I was born. My mom was 40. And he did not run for re-election, but I was always very proud of the fact that he served in the North Carolina Senate. And I can remember being asked to speak to a group one time after I came back and was practicing law, and I was going through his papers, and I found a letter from a constituent that was thanking him for getting a road paved back in the early 1950s. It changed the quality of life. It changed the economy of the area. And when I spoke to that group, I mentioned that letter, and people came up. They had remembered when that road was paved, and they still remembered what a game changer it was for them. And it told me the value of public service. So you don't get paid a lot of money when you serve in the North Carolina Senate, but you get a lot of psychological income knowing that you're improving the plight of your fellow man and working with the people to make life better.
Do you think politics was in your blood?
I think to a great degree. I had a couple of opportunities early in my career after I came back and started practicing law. Twice I was very seriously approached about running for the North Carolina House. But I had young children at the time, and since I lost my dad when I was 8 years old, I did not want to leave my young children there. But in 1996, the opportunity presented itself. My daughter was going to be a senior in high school, and so decided to run, and here I am today.
What did your mom think when you followed in your dad's footsteps to the state Senate?
Well, actually, she was not alive when I was elected to the state Senate. She died in 1978, but she would have been very, very proud. She was extremely proud that I became an attorney. She wanted me to follow in his footsteps in that regard, and I think she would be very proud of what I have done in public service, what I've done with my life in the Senate, and now as Lieutenant Governor and running for governor.
And you know, your sister's involved in politics herself, other side of the aisle, but I mean, was politics something that was discussed in your house a lot as you were growing up?
Yeah, it sure was. And by the way, my sister's come halfway back. She's now switched to independent to support me. But no, even after my dad left the North Carolina Senate, and even though he died when I was 8, I can remember being a very young child, and he was the party chair in the county, and we would travel around and we would go to all these political meetings, and it was intriguing, it was interesting. Also, a lot of those meetings were very boring for a small child. But I did remember his public service, and when I came back to the area, people remembered my dad as a public servant and what he had done, and they always encouraged me to get into politics. So I guess it was in my blood a little bit.
When you look at your life as public service, as a politician, are there any modern day politicians or leaders that you aspire to be that same type of leader as them?
Well, I look back over history. I mean, when I look at people like a Terry Sanford or a Jim Hunt, I'm very much inspired by them. I think North Carolina is so much better for the good work that they did. Terry Sanford with community colleges, and Jim Hunt, education governor, Smart Start. I represented Cleveland and Rutherford County in the North Carolina Senate, and I never knew O. Max Gardner, but he was the governor, one of the governors during the Great Depression. Very, very visionary person, and even in tough times said, we're not going to close our public schools in North Carolina. We're the only state that did not close our public schools during the Great Depression. And he was very progressive in his thought for somebody that served back then. So, and I remember John Kennedy when I was growing up, and remember his inaugural address, which is one of the greatest speeches of all time. So I take inspiration from all of that.
Dalton says, like most elected leaders, he has votes he's taken over the years he would probably like to go back and change, but is also proud of his work in Raleigh, especially when it comes to the creation of early colleges under the 2003 Innovative Education Act. And he says even though he is not a wide-eyed young politician anymore, he still has aspirations of getting big work done in Raleigh.
I'm optimistic, but I'm also pragmatic. I said I'm a pragmatic politician, and I think I understand the realities of life and the realities of politics and the realities of government. I'm always optimistic that we can do better and that we will do better if we make the right investments. Those right investments, in my opinion, are not cutting education to the depth that we have seen and not supporting community colleges and universities to the level that I think we need to do. But I am very optimistic about North Carolina's future. I think we have a great state, and most of all, we have great people. We have resilient people. I mean, we have been in tough times. This has been a national recession. What caused the loss of those textile and furniture jobs were trade policies that sent jobs offshore, then credit policies that dried up capital. Those things happened up in Washington. It was superimposed upon our economy. But as I have traveled this state, the people of North Carolina are resilient. They just want that opportunity to be the best that they can be, put food on the table, provide a better future for their children. And that's the reason I look at my economic development plan. It does create jobs now, but it also creates jobs for the future. And these early colleges I'm talking about, aligning those with the job needs of the future. That's what we need to be doing. That's the reason it's been called a model for the nation by the New York Times.
Walter Dalton is a small-town boy hoping to make a big mark in North Carolina's history books. What shaped him into the leader he is today, and the lady by his side through it all? That and more when we come back on this Decision 2012 special. Welcome back to this Decision 2012 special, up close with Walter Dalton, the Democratic candidate for governor. We talked to Dalton about the road that led him to public service, how he became the man he is today, and about his wife Lucille, who has been by his side every step of the way. He says a big part of what has shaped him is his small-town roots.
It was fantastic. It really was. It was a small town with small-town values. I never will forget being in, I think, second or third grade, and my dad was practicing law, and I came into his office, and he had purchased this lot behind our house, and we made it into, it was called Dalton's Field, and it really was not that big, but every neighborhood kid would come, and we would play every kind of ball imaginable on that field. And growing up, I became very involved in athletics. When my dad died at 8, I learned the value of community. He had been president of the Rotary Club. The night he died, he had presided over the Rotary Club. But his friends there in the Rotary Club friends from church really surrounded me, took an interest in me, took me hunting and fishing, got me involved in athletics. To a great degree, athletics became a surrogate father to me. And you learn discipline, you learn teamwork, you learn humility. And so it was a great place to grow up. You know, we had a community center, and that was another place. It had a basketball court. Every athletic event imaginable would occur up there, and it was only 2 or 3 blocks. So I would ride my bike up there on weekends, and you know, I was a gym rat. I hung out at the gym, and you know, great people there. Go to the drugstore, and when I got into high school sports, people would always talk about the game and be encouraging or tell you what you did wrong. A lot like politics. I mean, everybody's going to question what you do and what you should do. But it was a very close-knit group. Church on Sunday, I was very active in the Spindale United Methodist Church, and still am today. I'm a United Methodist lay speaker, and I can speak not only in my church but others. But we still go to that church, and I owe a lot to those people in Rutherford County.
And when you talk about high school athletes, you were the quarterback of the football team in high school. You know, I think every high school athlete always has those dreams of taking that high school athletics onto the collegiate level. Were you one of those guys who thought that you could do it past high school?
Well, I always had that dream. Unfortunately, I didn't have the talent. You know, I had a decent high school career. I played football, basketball, baseball, and lettered and all those started on the teams, but I didn't have that talent. But again, the dream, and that's what we've done with these early colleges. We've connected those with the dream. We connect them to the real world. These kids may not grow up to do some of the things that they think they want to do, but the fact that you latch on to that dream, it makes them better. I mean, when I was a high school quarterback, I wanted to be Johnny Unitas. He was the top quarterback back then, showing my age. But the fact that I wanted that dream made me a better quarterback. I was never going to be a Johnny Unitas or a Peyton Manning, but it made me better. And that's what we need to do in education. We need to challenge these kids and give them models. And it's not just learning math and science and history and English. Give them a dream that they can believe in, where you need those things to accomplish that dream. And that's the way they elevate. That's what we've done with early colleges. That's the reason 7 of the top 10 high schools for graduation rate were early colleges, because we latched onto that dream.
So after high school, you're a Tar Heel. You went to UNC. Did you always want to go there? Did you know that was the college for you?
It was. My dad had gone to UNC. I did play around with the idea of going to a smaller college and playing sports. And I actually played with the idea of trying out at Carolina, but I didn't. I saw some of the linemen, and I thought, no, I don't think I need to do that. They were pretty big guys. So I went to Carolina, did play intramurals and things like that. Loved my time at Carolina. It was an interesting time, though, an interesting time in history in the 60s, 1967. Well, 67 to 71 is when I was in college. You had Kent State, Vietnam, the assassination of Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King. You had a lot of things going on in the world at that time. But I think it gave a realization how important government is at that time, because we were going through a tumultuous time, and the country was looking for some leadership at that time.
Dalton says this year, this run for governor was not what he was expecting when he rang in the new year. He was just as shocked as everyone when Perdue announced she was not running for a second term.
No question about it. I'll even amplify that story. We had our 40th wedding anniversary, August of 2011. I just thought I was busy then, and I told Lucille that I'll be running for lieutenant governor, but I did not anticipate any substantial primary, may even get by without a primary. I said, so after filing, we'll celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary. I still owe her that trip or whatever we're going to do in celebration of that, because it was totally unexpected that she would not run. In fact, the night before she announced, I'd done a great fundraiser for my lieutenant governor's campaign. Very content that night, going to bed realizing I was running for lieutenant governor. We had raised what we thought was going to be good money for the lieutenant governor's race. And the next day, the whole world changed.
You've run plenty of elections. You've run for state senate. You've run for lieutenant governor. What's different about running for governor? What have you learned out on the campaign trail this year?
Well, I mean, obviously it's more higher profile. You know, it's a lot of travel, but so was the lieutenant governor's race. What's been tough about this one is that we got in it so late. You know, my opponent has been out there 4 years raising money. He did not have a substantial primary because of the lateness of it. Others got in. We had a substantial primary. So that has been challenging. I've said I've been running the high hurdles ever since we got into this in January, but I think we're jumping the high hurdles, and we're getting into the last stretch of this thing, and I feel good about it.
When Dalton talks about his career path and political aspirations, you'll notice his wife Lucille is often part of the conversation. She joined our conversation to talk about why she is his biggest cheerleader.
A great father, great husband. We've had a wonderful life together, 41 years of marriage, and we dated a number of years before that, so knowing each other in high school and then during college years. And so it's been a wonderful life, and he's got a lot of ability, a lot of intelligence, and will do a wonderful job as governor of North Carolina.
Now, I know that you said you've met in high school.
Right.
Where did he take you on your first date?
Well, Spartanburg, I think. Spartanburg, South Carolina, actually, to go out to dinner and a movie. So
Must have been a dinner and a movie.
That's right. So we've enjoyed movies over the years when we've had the opportunity.
It's not easy being the politician's spouse. You're not the one necessarily in the spotlight, but you are out there on the campaign trail a lot, and you are having to support the spouse in the busy schedule that they have. What has it been like for you? This has been a long time he's been in public service.
Right, and it's not all easy, but I've always felt like anything worth doing, it's not going to be all easy. And, you know, having run myself, I didn't realize at the time, having served on the school board at home and running myself, I had understood a little bit about the process before he really jumped into that first Senate race. So I have a great appreciation and admiration for people who run for office, and I hope good people will always be willing to put themselves out there at every level to run for office. And that's one of the discouraging things about how now the advertising is a bit out of control, with all of the different groups being able to funnel money into the TV airways. And so I hope at some point Congress can do something about changing that legislation to control the out-of-control spending and groups that don't have to identify themselves.
You were the politician's spouse also when she was running for office. Do you think it gives you a good perspective, at least a little bit, of what she has to deal with you out there?
I think so, but I think she has to put up more. I've been in it longer, and the races are different. But you talk about a challenge in a marriage. We were on the ballot together. We did that in 1998. She was running for the school board. I was running for the state senate, and you saw more blue yard signs throughout Rutherford County than anybody could imagine in Cleveland. Also, I was running over there. But we were having one of those long sessions that I was not at home as much, so she was doing double duty, running for the school board, and then when it came around to the state senate, she said, well, I would like to speak for my husband, and she probably did a much better job for me than I would have done myself. That's how devoted she is to this.
So if he wins on election night, your new title after that will be Lucille Dalton, First Lady of North Carolina. Do you have any thoughts of how you would, that's a platform to definitely be on. Do you have any thoughts of what you'd like to do if you get to hold that title?
Well, of course, I'm not worried about a title, but I know he would be wonderful as governor to lead the state, and I would be happy to help in any role I could. And education is a passion of mine, as well as children with special circumstances, and I would look to some of those issues to help further children being able to read earlier, and also any children that has any kind of disability or challenge in their life.
Walter Dalton has been the state's second in command since 2008, but now he's campaigning to take the helm in Raleigh. His ideas for how he can win and what North Carolina would look like under a Dalton administration. When we come back on this Decision 2012 special. Welcome back to this Decision 2012 special, Up Close with Walter Dalton, the Democratic candidate for governor. Dalton entered this race late after a late decision by Governor Bev Perdue not to run for re-election. Polls show him down heading into the election, but this longtime public servant says it's not over until it's over.
There is enough time left, I will say that. You know, I think the debates have gone well for us. I think we have defined what our vision is for North Carolina. We've posted it on the web. If somebody didn't see that, they can see definitive plans for job recovery, for education, for ethics. As you've seen in the debates, he has no answers to any of these questions, and he was not able to respond when we challenged him during the debate. So we need to get that message out to people. We need to turn out the vote very strongly. I feel good about this. I've been saying, as I said before, I've been jumping the high hurdles. He should have a lead, you know, early on in this thing. He's been running for 3 years or 4 years. He had a lot of name recognition. He spent probably $8 million, I guess, running at least that 4 years ago. So he had a lot of name recognition. A lot of what you see in that poll is name recognition, not judging these policies. Now people are going to start judging the policies. Who should lead North Carolina? Who can really create jobs now and jobs for the future? Who will really invest in education and grow great jobs from great schools? And I think when they do that and they look at my record, they look at my vision, they're going to embrace my candidacy. Time is a factor, but I thank you for this opportunity tonight, because if I can shake every hand of all 9.6 million people, I am confident I win this race. I cannot do that, so it takes things like this and ads, and that's the way we'll get our message out. But I appreciate this opportunity, but more than that, I'm going to appreciate the people of North Carolina embracing that vision and giving me the honor of leading them forward, so we will have that better day in North Carolina.
What will 4 years under Walter Dalton look like?
It will show an investment in education. It will show an immediate job recovery. If you go to that plan, you will see that is a way to bring these jobs back and get people back to work, and then build for that future economy. And that means investing in education, but investing the right way, prioritizing our money, aligning it with the job needs of the future, as I've done with the early colleges. And as we grow businesses from within North Carolina and recruit them, I want to brand those schools. So when we bring a recruit in, or we're talking to a business, we say, look at that logo. That's a relationship between our public schools and our universities or community colleges. We've aligned with the needs that you need for your workforce. We will have that ready workforce for you. And I want to see North Carolina be a leader not only in the Southeast. I want to see us a leader in the nation and in the global economy. And that's not hyperbole. That's not just bragging. We can do that in North Carolina. We were at the brink of that before this great recession. We were really right there. But you don't get there or stay there by cutting to the degree that we have seen. We have to make the right investments. But if the people will allow me to work with them and lead with them, we will bring North Carolina back, and we will be that leader.
Early voting has now kicked off here in North Carolina, and Election Day is now just around the corner. Dalton says he will continue to push his message right up until the end. He says he believes his plans can and will work for North Carolina, and Republicans and Democrats alike could embrace them. I'm Loretta Beniti. Thanks for watching this Decision 2012 special, Up Close with Walter Dalton.